All right, all right. I think we're up and running here. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're so glad that you're here to join us on this crazy day. We had wild weather in Portland and we got news in Russia and all kinds of things. So we're super excited that you took some time out of your day today to join us. I'm Angela Glotz. I'm the general manager in Portland for Source, and I am joined with our CEO, Nicole. Hi guys. We are both based out of Portland, and we're here just to kind of chat about FF&E from discovery to delivery. We have 5 different ways that we are suggesting to help expedite on that and to work through some of these post-COVID supply chain challenges that we're all facing. And I just want to make sure you guys know that we can use the chat to ask questions and to make comments. It looks like several people already have, which is awesome. And we're just excited to have so many folks from different sectors and different areas of the continent here joining us today. Nicole, anything you want to say as an intro before we jump into the deck?
No, we're just really excited to join with everybody. It's always fun to share some of the things that we learned and share best practices in the industry. And we get the lucky opportunity to hear a lot of different pieces of feedback from around the country. So we thought we like to say from island to coast, from Honolulu to New York, or from Honolulu, sorry, I'm retraining myself, to New York. So we are really excited to share this knowledge with you all today and hope that it's helpful and helps your projects run more smoothly.
Great. Well, I'll dive into the agenda, short and sweet. We're going to cover kind of some of the current common issues that just kind of lay the landscape of why we need to have some tips and tricks. We'll do a couple of polls and then dive into those 5 tips and tricks, and then we'll save some time at the end for Q&A, again, using the chat for the platform for that. So without further ado, the 5 kind of main issues that we recognize and have seen kind of over and over again: lead times, pricing volatility, product reselection challenges, turnover, that kind of means loss of project knowledge, and then some communication delays and issues. I'm going to dive into a little bit more on each of those. So with the lead time issues, basically, I think most everybody can recognize that that's something that is constantly moving and in flux right now. It's something that, one of the issues with the lead times can change after you place a PO, depending on where you fit in the queue. So for instance, if a large project comes in right before you, you might have thought you had a 10-week lead time, but then you get pushed out to 18 weeks. I don't know if any of you have experienced that. So that's a major issue that all of us are really facing together in this. Likewise, pricing volatility. So this can be resulting from supply issues with the materials that are being used to price, as well as labor. So lack of labor to do the building out from the manufacturing level and the sending out. So that can greatly affect the pricing. So when you're trying to set a budget at the beginning of a project, then you get these pricing fluctuations and you come down to when you're placing POs and suddenly your budget has changed. And that can happen all the way through a project, not just on an FF&E, as I'm sure most of you know. With the product reselections aspect, so this is something that can happen in the kind of dreaded VE process, and it's kind of a reflection of those first 2 in terms of when you do have lead time changes and budget changes, you need to go back and reselect, and that can be very challenging and take extra time from a staff that might already be stretched a little thin, and that can create further delays and other challenges in the process. And that kind of leads into a little more like sensitive but yet critical challenge in terms of turnover. I feel like everybody I talk to right now is hiring, which in one sense is exciting, but it also does create a challenge in this kind of great restructuring that's happening right now, where folks are moving around a lot. And in one sense that can be great and exciting, and another it can be a place where knowledge can be lost in a firm if you don't have a way to collect that and hold that so that there isn't this kind of gaping hole when someone who might have known everything that was going on a project has left. So having a way to track that is key. And then this communication delays and issues comes up a lot of times with projects where you have key decision makers that are in different locations, different time zones at different firms. They might have different ways of sharing information. And so this can be a real great challenge for creating a sense of accuracy and transparency through a project, and can also cause delays and issues when you're trying to get the same information from and to all of those key decision makers. Oh, and now I want to jump into doing a quick little poll. I'm going to see if I can add this easily. Here we go. So basically, this is kind of a moment for us to have a group think moment together. If you see the poll there and can answer basically what issues are the most painful on your projects right now, we won't see your name as the answer. We'll just kind of see the collective answers there. So it would be locally made, design the aesthetic.
We're going to set up both. There's going to be a couple polls coming your way. So this is like when you're starting out the project, what project criteria is the most important to you? Like what are the things where you're really leaning in and trying to make sure that you're hitting these items for your projects? And then I'm popping up another poll right now too that will ask sort of the problems that you are seeing, what else, what are the most painful ones? What are the ones that are hurting your projects the most? So we'll take a couple minutes and pause on those polls. I feel like we need the Jeopardy, like, dude, I can't sing, so I'm not gonna do it, but we need some like Jeopardy music.
Oh, we should have had some music in the background. That's interesting. So the design aesthetic, it sounds like it's kind of at 63% right now in terms of criteria that's most important, but locally made. And, we do hear that a lot too. With our different clients and vendors, is that locally made being something that a lot of folks really want to lean into. And so that's interesting though. It's awesome. And sustainability, I didn't expect it to be kind of on the lower end, but great. Thank you for jumping in and answering. And those kind of pain points and issues on the project's lead time, number one.
Yeah, it is those two, the lead time and the pricing volatility are definitely what we hear the most.
For sure.
Well, we can continue to answer those. Those will be live, so you can see the answers to those polls. And then we'll kick into the areas to plan for success in some of these painful areas and how to hit that project criteria. So we'll go through a few different items here. So the 5 areas that we really find everything is sort of grouped into are, things that you can tackle in the kickoff meeting, things that you can tackle to keep your project on budget, things that you can tackle to make sure you're hitting the lead times and delivery of your project, and then the product selection tips and tricks to keep the criteria of your project met, and then just general communication tips and things that you can do on your projects to help them move forward more smoothly. So starting with the kickoff meeting, there's a saying that I'm going to butcher, but an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, something like that. And the kickoff meeting is really the place in the project to really dive into the details of what success looks like for each of the important stakeholders in the project, of those key decision makers. And so that really starts with the agreement during the kickoff, getting agreement and getting clear definitions of what everybody means when they say particular things. So one piece is the budget, right? So we have X dollars for this project. What does that include in everyone's mind? Is that just the furniture? Is that the furniture, the art, the plants, the installation, the freight, the RWDI? What are all the different components that budget number means is an important piece to really get agreement around. And then occupancy day, like what does that mean? We want the project done on X day. Is that the final day that work can be done on the site? Or is that the day that employees are in working, or that the hotel opens, or what is that occupancy day? What does that mean to everyone on the project team? And just making sure there's alignment around that really helps that portion of the project move smoothly, and then it guides all the decisions moving forward. And then project criteria, like we just talked about here, right? There's a lot of different things that can be important to a project. So outlining that up front, what are the key criteria that must be met, and stack ranking that against what things are nice to haves. So is it a must have to meet a particular building standard? Is the budget a must have? Is the lead time a must have? Is everything a must have? What are the things that really can give as you move forward and make decisions? So really stack ranking project criteria by priority for the project owner, the client, developer, whoever that project is being built for. And then really understanding who the key stakeholders are for each phase of the project. So there's really 3 major phases in any FF&E project, right? Is the decision-making phase, the purchasing phase, and then installation and punch list. And sometimes that's all the same person on each team, and sometimes those can be different. But understanding, is there someone that wants to be really involved in deciding what goes in, but they don't want to be bothered with the day-to-day afterwards of, being kept in the loop on purchasing and tracking and all of that. So really understanding who the key players are, and those are, the most important things to tackle at the kickoff meeting. And then budget, as this is our second highest pain point on projects right now. We really feel like there's some things that you can do to help keep your projects in budget. So one is understanding the discount structure of the person that you're purchasing from, and how that is being passed on to you or not being passed on to you, but really digging into understanding, from a local reach to a national reach, what is the discount structure that you're working with on your project. And then the second is pricing transparency. So being able to understand, is this inclusive of freight? Is this inclusive of RWDI? Is just the product number, but just making sure that everything's really well detailed. There's a lot of different pieces that can come up. So making sure that you have the greatest amount of transparency possible with your procurement partner so that there's no surprises as things move through. And then the third one is pricing rechecks. We recommend that pricing is rechecked very often. You can be making decisions and working on a project for 6 months or a year, and manufacturers in the meantime are having monthly or quarterly price increases. And so being able to quickly recheck the project, in our platform, it's like select everything, click of a button, let's get it all price rechecked, but making sure that is a process that happens continually throughout the project so that you understand if some amount of your project has gone over budget. And then lead times. This is our number one pain point. 49% of the most painful things on the projects are lead times. So there's a few interesting things to think about with lead times. So one is that the words lead time, schedule, and production time all get sort of convoluted and mixed together and used interchangeably. So we're going to talk about them as separate items. So for schedule, really working back to front with a project build out schedule. So again, in your kickoff meeting, you had this wonderful conversation about what occupancy day means. And so what your occupancy day is, and work backwards from that, very, very detailed. So what's the number of days that you need for installation? What's the number of days that you need for receiving at the warehouse prior to installation day? How many weeks are you allocating for shipping? How many weeks are you allocating for production time? How many weeks are you allocating for, administrative time? And then what about decisions before that? So then you can come up with like a really clear milestone for decision-making cutoff and understand what production times you should be looking for when you're looking at furniture. And then that brings us to production time. So that really is understanding like what is the current production time of the factory or the manufacturer that you're working with, and how is it different from their typical production time? So, do they typically run 4 to 6 weeks, but right now they're running 6 to 8 weeks? And that's just in production, right? Plus shipping, plus everything else. So really understanding the nuance of what people are saying when they're like, hey, this is an X to X week lead time. Like what does lead time mean from the person saying it and the person receiving it? Just really clarifying those details can be very helpful. And then reducing PO creation time as much as possible. So really pushing to streamline the amount of time used to create purchase orders. This historically can take 2 to 3 weeks just to create those purchase orders. And so ask for that information clearly outlined in your RFPs or RFQs. If you think about it like a restaurant, if you've ever been sitting in a restaurant and having a bite to eat with a friend, and all of a sudden you're not in a hurry to order, and then all of a sudden a big party comes in and there's like 15 people, you're like, we got to place our order right now because we don't want to be, I'm hungrier than waiting for 15 people to order. Sort of the same thing, right? Like you could be sitting at a great 4 to 6 week production time, but if a big order comes in ahead of you, and that could have been avoided by getting POs in a couple weeks sooner, then really leaning into that. So again, here at Source, we always want to make sure that we're doing POs within 1 to 2 days, and really reducing that time so that we're not losing, project schedule in administrative overhead. And then the fourth part is product selections. And so with the just amount of work that everyone has on their plates right now, and like Angela mentioned, there's been a lot of people that are hiring and sometimes not having enough staff to do everything that's on your plate. So really working with a procurement partner that will assist in product selections, partially to help take the burden of work off of your plate, but also to put that, if you can help with design intent and really drive that design aesthetic, which obviously is very important with the project criteria, right? Then working with a partner that can say, okay, here's your design intent, here's 6 options that meet your budget and your lead time and will make your project successful. Really leaning on the team that you're working with to do that as part of their procurement fee. And then the project criteria, I'll keep coming back to this, is like at the end of the day, when the design is done and punch list is over and all the blue tape is off the walls, is the client going to be happy and are they going to rehire your firm, right? That's what we all want, is for the project to be successful at the end. So really making sure that the project criteria is always front and center, and making sure that every decision is using that criteria as a guiding post to what's being selected, what vendors you're using, is it locally made? All of these different items can really help tell a really great story at the end of a project for you as a firm to have created that successful project, and then for that client or developer to have that in their portfolio for their end users. And the last piece is communication. And I feel like this could probably be its own 45-minute presentation. So we'll try to keep it brief here. And we would love to, questions or ideas of what other folks have seen to help their projects be successful would be really, really great to see. Thanks for all the notes in chat so far. So the cloud collaboration really is talking about leveraging cloud-based technology. So making sure that you're streamlining workflows, compensating for remote or hybrid teamwork that you're doing, and just having one system that keeps everything in place. So having everything from all those discovery, all the way through decision-making, delivery, purchase, punch list, all of that in one place and one cloud-based platform can be really helpful, because then anyone can come in at any phase on the project and see what the status of everything is. And it also makes knowledge transfer, if it does have to happen on a project, a lot easier. And then accuracy. So again, just being really clear on, what does this mean to you? What does this mean to me? Putting good information in gets good information out. Putting bad information in is bad information out. So really making sure you're working with updated product catalogs, that it's current and accurate. All of that information can really help a lot. And then automating sign-offs. So that administrative portion of making sure that everybody, okay, these are all the decisions that we've made. This is everything documented. Here's our spec sheets. Here's all of the different choices that we've made, down to the welt, the buttons, the casters, all those finite details that have to go through. And then having a tool that will automate the creation of those and then automate the sign off can also help the project move along faster, as well as make that consistent information transfer a lot more successful. And then the last piece on communication is just tracking. It's that post-purchase journey, right? What happens? All right, we've agreed, this is the purchase order, this is what's going on, this is what's being purchased. Now, what's the status at the factory? What's the status of the product on the road or the boat or wherever it's coming from? Is it arrived at the warehouse yet? How, is installation day tracking on time? Is it going to be later? How's everything going? And just having really clear and consistent communication post purchase is really important for the success of projects, because things can still come up even after purchase orders get sent in. Things can still come up, something can get stuck in the Suez Canal for a few weeks. We never know. I think that's the only thing we've learned these last 2 years is that we don't know anything and it's all going to change. And so, really having that clear and consistent communication throughout the journey from the very beginning, but also in the tracking phases is really important. So it looks like we have a few questions and things, Angela. I haven't totally been keeping track of chat, but
That's okay.
I'm sure
I
you
have been. Yeah. Alex had asked about just I think the length of a kickoff meeting, and I had kind of answered that in terms of 1 to 3 hours depending on the size of the project. And Tanya has been adding a ton of helpful info in terms of getting POs in early and working with the manufacturers to get in that queue early, and maybe not having to necessarily pay until something ships, and some great feedback from Tanya. Feel free, anybody, to jump in with questions. We're close to wrapping up. I think we spoke so fast, maybe we're a little nervous or something, so we might end early, but we're happy to take more questions.
Nobody ever worries about ending anything early. I would love to hear, if there's any things that you guys have seen that have helped your projects move really successfully through. What different tips or tricks you could share with the group. And I'll ask you first, Angela.
Oh, geez, thanks. Beyond what we've already said. Yeah, I think that relying on your really great resources and partners in the process is a huge one too, that, kind of piggybacking off what Tanya's saying. I mean, your manufacturers and, the reps for all the different materials and products that you need are your key assets in any successful project. And so really leaning on their knowledge and their assistance, especially if you do have some, big fires that need to get put out, think of not just as your problem, but something that you can reach out to the great knowledge and network of the reps and manufacturers to assist with that, I would say, is a added bonus tip to the list.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important, and really leaning on them to help fill in those gaps. You don't have to know everything. You just need to know somebody who knows everything about everything.
Right. Patricia's asking if this is available as an app on your phone or tablet.
Yeah, so it's a web app, so you can access it from any browser, your iPad, and or phone. I would say it's a lot of information on a phone. It doesn't work as great on a phone, but tablet or web browser, the app works really great.
And Louisa's asking, what are folks experiencing with procurement consultants, thinking about balancing delegation work on the design team for another consultant to talk to, or if it streamlines the design process? So that might be kind of a question to the group as well, but I don't know if you want to try to address that at all, Nicole.
Yeah, I think in my experience, there's the right projects to bring in, people earlier in the design phase. And then there's some projects where you might want more control over that. And so I think what I've seen help projects be successful in the beginning is just knowing, where you might have some gaps that can be filled by your procurement partner. So if that's just giving you recommendations like, hey, look at these different vendors, or start with the X type of room because those are the longest lead time items right now. Really understanding that, or if it's also about, bringing them in to help make the product decisions. Again, we see that. So I'm trying to talk about it without talking about source, but so at source, when we come in and help with actually making selections and things like that, it's typically because the team has a lot going on, that we're coming in to help as their design assist, essentially. So they would give us a basis of design and we'd say, okay, great. We'll price this, we'll find lead times, and we'll find 5 or 6 alternates for you. Then we'll, have weekly standing meetings where we'll review those alternates and see what the project likes, what the designers like, what the owners like. And so we're sort of there as a beefed up project intern or design assist or something like that. So I would say those types of projects are really helpful when you're strapped for time, and really want to be able to continue to do more projects with maybe the same headcount, bringing in a partner that can do that as part of their typical procurement fee, where they're not charging more for that, and you can really just roll it into your daily workflow.
Great. Let's see. We've got tons of questions to fire through. So Ava's asking, for the tracking phase, does it work too when you have to return purchased items that do not fit your budget needs? So, I mean,
yeah.
yes.
So returns are always a really good thing to talk about. Is like, do people accept returns? Are there restocking fees? Is this a custom item? So most procurement agents, dealers, source, whatever you're working with, will have specific policies around returns. So I can't speak to everyone's return policies, but for us, if the manufacturer will return it, we will honor whatever the manufacturer does. So often there's a restocking fee, and then sometimes if it's a completely custom item, there are no returns allowed. So just understanding that prior to making the purchases is good. And then of course, if something came in broken or the wrong item was shipped, or those issues that just happen on jobs, obviously, I know I think I can fairly say that any procurement agent or dealership would, if the wrong item was shipped or came in broken, we would all bend over backwards to make sure that the job was successful. And then, making sure that tracking information continues through the closeout of that punch list, right? So that becomes a punch list item. It's like it's not completely done yet. And so tracking and keeping that continuation up until the whole project is completely done is definitely important.
Great. Let's see. Sarah has just kind of a great comment here in terms of, as a local rep with a large local warehouse, let us know when you have a specified, so we can bring the material in at the current cost and hold it for you to reduce your lead times and ensure your material is here when you need it, and that they want to help as much as possible. And I know that I've heard about this on several times, different general contractors I've been working with in terms of pre-purchasing things like steel and other things and then holding those. And I know this is an FF&E, but just to say, I know that is a strategy a lot of GCs are using right now as well for materials on building projects, just because they're of all the challenges that we've talked about today. So thank you, Sarah. Nancy, she just graduated into the field and has lots of things to learn. What questions are important to ask reps when specifying materials? Nancy, let's do another session on that, because
congratulations, Nancy. That's so exciting.
Yeah, that is great. And
yes, you have an amazing career ahead of you. I agree, Angela. That is a whole nother question. I would say one or two questions that I used when I started out as an intern at a large firm and was managing their materials library. And someone gave me this good advice, and I'll pass it on to you, and you pass it forward one day, was ask the reps what you should be asking them. And so they'll know, right? So just ask them, hey, whoever your amazing carpet rep is, like, what's important to think about when I'm specifying carpet for X project? I think the more information that you can share with the rep, the more knowledge that they can share back with you. So then maybe their next question would be, what type of project is it? Because if it's a senior housing project, that's going to have different criteria than like an education project. So I think just sharing information and details, and I'd love to hear, I know we have a bunch of amazing reps on chat right now. So if there's any tips you have for Nancy, feel free to fill them in there. I know there's an endless amount of things you have to learn after you graduate. So congrats, Nancy.
Yeah. I don't know if this is how you pronounce her name, but Elawati has asked if Source charges a markup per item cost or a one-time service fee.
Yeah, great question. So how we charge is we charge markup on top of the product cost. So we're incredibly transparent with our pricing. We'll show you, what we're purchasing the pricing from the vendors, and then we charge a 5% markup on top of that, and then that is your project cost. And then there's additional installation like RWDI or whatever the additional components are. But we'll put a budget together with everyone that says, here's the X product cost, here's the source platform fee, here's any additional freight or RWDI. If you want to hold a contingency in the project, we'll work on the budgets there.
And Tanya's asking that she'd like to know more about procurement consultants, and she says, I assume they would work with someone like me, and I can say yes. I mean, I don't know, who are you, but yes.
So Tanya, I know Tanya, so I can kind of speak to it a little bit.
Oh, great.
So it really depends. There's all kinds of different procurement consultants. So they can be focused on just FF&E, so just furniture and fixtures. In your case with flooring and more building materials, sometimes there's like an owner's rep that's involved that helps, and that's sort of maybe like a procurement consultant. So they can really take a lot of different shapes and forms. So hope that's helpful.
And Jaden Willis is asking, are there any incentives for joining? Is that in
Cool.
terms of
What do you want to join? What's maybe explain your question a little more to me, Jaden. Are you a designer, architect, rep? The incentive for anyone to join the Source platform is really just very much, we want to help make your job easier, whether that's, streamlining communication between architects, designers, and reps. If you're a brand, getting your products in front of the architecture and design community. And if you're, an architect designer, really helping your projects move more smoothly. So the discovery, the decision-making tools are all free to use. And then we can help in purchasing of FF&E. We can help in that process. So I don't know if that's enough incentive, Jaden, but hopefully it helps you and it's free. So I don't know.
Who can I talk to about getting on the platform in Arizona? Joe, you can talk to any of us. You can jump onto the site, and there's places where you can just join the site itself for free. And then if you want a demo or to chat with somebody, there's several different ways you can reach out on the platform itself, and we'd love to help. And we are past time, so I feel like I know we love having questions, but I want to be cognizant of everyone's time here. So we're at 11:31, so we might need to wrap up.
Well, thanks everyone for your time today, and you'll receive a copy of this entire. You can rewatch this till your heart's content. It can be your bedtime. We'll just put you right to sleep every night, but you'll also get a copy of it in your inbox. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining.
One last thing too, you'll get your gift cards within 24 hours of today. So just so you know, those will be coming within 24 hours. So thanks everybody, greatly appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks so much.